parking up here? Okay. Good evening. As chairman of Hartford Public Schools Board of Education, I hereby call to order June 21st, 2022 regular public meeting. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. The board, superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us to celebrate achievement, review information, make policy decisions, and celebrate our students related to the effective operation of Hartford Public Schools. This regular meeting and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As Hartford Public School Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to the reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policies for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve problems for individuals. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. The monthly meetings of the boards are open to the public. They are the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in the public arena. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it's legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, I may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken this time to join us this evening, and we are very proud of this school system, and thank you for your interest in Hartford Public Schools. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Buenas noches. El presidente de la Junta de Educación de Hartford ha llamado a orden esta reunión ordinaria de la Junta del 21 de junio del 2022. Damos una cálida bienvenida a todas las personas presentes y a nuestros televidentes. La Junta y la Superintendente se complacen que se han unido a nosotros para celebrar logros, revisar información y tomar decisiones relacionadas con el funcionamiento efectivo de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Esta es una reunión ordinaria y todos los asuntos que serán discutidos o votados en esta tarde han sido notificados como lo requiere la ley estatal. Como la Junta de Educación de Hartford, estamos aquí para establecer metas, escuchar los informes de la superintendente, aprobar los presupuestos, contratos y nombramientos del personal y establecer normas para el distrito. No estamos aquí para tomar decisiones administrativas o resolver problemas individuales. La administración es la responsabilidad de la superintendente. Las reuniones mensuales de la Junta están abiertas al público. Son el momento en que la Junta lleva a cabo su tarea de gobernar el sistema escolar en un espacio público. Las reuniones regulares no son reuniones con el público, por lo tanto, los comentarios de la audiencia se limitarán al tiempo designado para el público dirigirse a la Junta. El decoro y la cortesía son elementos importantes en reuniones públicas eficaces. Por favor, silencie sus teléfonos celulares o dispositivos de comunicación y absténganse de hablar mientras otros están hablando. De que los procedimientos sean grabados con precisión, es posible que tengamos
presidents to share their thoughts and experience. Have submitted videos, and we asked them to respond to a prompt. How will you transform the world? So let's introduce some of our outstanding students. First up is Time Kriker, valedictorian from Kinsella Magnet School of Performing Arts. They are planning to attend the Pratt Institute for Graphic Design. Time, congratulations on your graduation and your acceptance to the Pratt Institute. So tell us, how do you plan to transform the world?
Actually, I was unaware of the events and the prompt because the person who informed me about this, he just said, show up. So here I am. But I think with transforming the world, I think it's personally more important to focus on community, because I think in a current society we're very hyper focused on individualism and benefiting, you know, yourself and getting yourself, you know, supported, like you don't need anybody. But it's showing in the past years, like it's just not working out for us to like be so self-conscious and self-centered. Like for us to survive together and like to prosper, we really have to work together and like think more about how we can help each other instead. And I think, you know, focusing more on problems in your community and like my community as well, it's like it will better help like our surroundings and how we are as people.
We have Grace Hill, valedictorian from Capital Prep. She will be attending Vassar College in New York in the fall. She could not be here tonight, but she shared her favorite quote by James Baldwin. The purpose of education is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for himself, to make his own decisions. So we want to congratulate and wish Grace the best of luck. We now can see Santiago Gonzalez, who's the valedictorian from Sports and Medical Sciences Academy. He could not be here because he is already attending the summer program at his college, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He plans to major in mathematics and computer sciences. Congratulations to Santiago. We now have Aiua Day Okugwe, the valedictorian from Great Path Academy, on her way to UConn in the fall, plans to major in biomedical engineering and hopes to become an OBGYN, an obstetrician gynecologist, and she also earned a seal of biliteracy for speaking both Yoruba and English. Congratulations. We also want to congratulate Harvard Public High School's valedictoria, who we actually heard today during her graduation, Ita May Paul, who will be attending University of Connecticut School of Allied Health. She is also a Promise Scholar. Lakshmi Babieni is valedictorian at Pathways Academy of Technology and Design, also attending University of Connecticut, with plans to major in biomedical engineering. And I believe we have a video for Nathaniel Torres, Ms. Santiago, who is from University High School of Science and Engineering. And although they don't name a valedictorian, Nathaniel is their class president. He's not able to attend, but let's see what he has to say about changing the world.
I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Tomley for choosing me for this. I am a Hartford Promise and Fox Scholarship, and I am attending University of Connecticut. I'm sorry I would not be able to attend today because I have to go to UConn SSS program for the summer. First, I would like to say thank you to my parents for helping me get where I am today. Without them, I would not be who I am, and I'm truly grateful for them. My plan on changing the world is helping with the youth, just like how people taught me coming up. My parents, coaches, and teachers, such as Coach Quinn, my high school football coach, Miss Tedesco, my English teacher, and my youth football coach, Coach Phil Bryant. Without them, they truly changed my perspective on how important the youth is. I want to give back to like how they gave back to me.
Nakia Jones is valedictorian from Buckley High School. She will be attending Johns Hopkins University for engineering. Has had several accolades, including earning the Seal of Biliteracy, being a member of the National Honor Society, and a winner of the National African American Recognition Program. And she also shared a video.
Hi, my name is Nakia Jones. I go to Buckley High School, and I am our class's valedictorian. I plan on transforming the world by continuing to work towards my goals whilst fighting for what I believe in, hopefully creating a space where people are comfortable being who they are and they're more open-minded.
Joining us this evening is Brian Trong, outstanding student from Hartford Magnet Trinity College Academy. He will be attending Yale University. Brian, come join us. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about your plans for the future and how you plan to transform the world.
Okay. As a first-generation college student, I aim to pursue a degree in the health or social sciences. And beyond the classroom, I'm committed to making an impact in a field I deeply care about, which is public health. Having recently had a visit to the ER for a fractured collarbone, I'm pretty aware of how high the cost of medical care is in America. And so, to me, healthcare, or health, is a basic human right for every person. And the right to health includes universal access to quality and affordable care. And so, to this end, I hope to study abroad, analyzing various healthcare systems, and eventually taking what I learned back to the U.S. to assist in making medical treatment more accessible to everyone. I attribute my passion for helping others to my family and my commitment to transforming the world to Hartford Public School teachers, shout out to Miss Avery, and mentors who have given me the skills to dream big. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and best of luck to you. And now I'd like to invite Riley Fournier to come up to the microphone. She is a graduate of Classical Magnet and the valedictorian, a fourth-generation Hartford Public Schools graduate, also a Promise Scholar and a Fox Scholar. She'll be attending Fordham University in New York City in the fall. Congratulations to you, Riley, on all of your accomplishments, and share, how do you plan to transform the world?
Thank you. I'm Riley, and I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. My major's undecided at Fordham, but I'm just planning to get an education, study abroad, you know, just find my place in transforming the world. I don't really know what I want to do yet, so I'm just looking forward to finding how I can do that at school.
Congratulations and best of luck to you. And lastly, we have Nicole Tirado. I think she's also here, yes, from Weaver High School. Nicole is the salutatorian, a Hartford Promise Scholar. She is the first Hartford Public Schools student to earn the Seal of Biliteracy in American Sign Language, is on her way to University of Connecticut. Thank you for being here, Nicole, and congratulations to you. How do you plan to transform the world?
So I'm going to UConn to study animal sciences because I plan to be a veterinarian in the future. I want to change the world by making vet practices more accessible for low-income families, especially in the Hartford animal area, because I know it's very expensive, like how Brian's saying, to get health care, especially for your animals. Because for me, I see my pets as a part of my family and feel like they can help everyone. I also had a struggle because I had a family cat who had died from malpractice because the vet only really wanted money and he didn't tell us what was actually wrong for her. So she ended up dying. I want to change that narrative and make it more accessible for everyone and just to help. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nicole, and congratulations to you. So if I can invite all of our outstanding students that are here to just come to the stage quickly for a photo. And again, congratulations to the class of 2022. Brian, Nicole, and yeah. And thank you, Board of Education, for allowing space tonight to do this.
Thank you. We will now move on to public comment. Ms. Oliver?
We as the board, in collaboration with the superintendent and district leadership, are committed to cultivating a culture of excellence at all levels of HPS. We thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's board meeting. We appreciate you coming out to learn more about Hartford Public Schools and for sharing your thoughts and concerns. We have established a protocol to track and respond to concerns raised. We want you to know that we take your concerns seriously, and to that end, staff will follow up within 48 hours if follow-up is required via your preferred method of contact, the speaker actually indicated on the sign-in sheet. We will follow this no-contact method of follow-up for the time being, adhering to safety protocols. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. At the 2-minute mark, the bell will ring, letting you know you have 1 minute left. At the second bell, please wrap up your comments. Now this will be read in Spanish.
Nosotros, la Junta de Educación, en colaboración con la superintendente y personal del distrito, estamos comprometidos a cultivar una cultura de excelencia en todos los niveles de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Les agradecemos se haya tomado el tiempo para asistir a la reunión de la Junta esta noche. Les agradeceremos su participación y su deseo de aprender más sobre las escuelas públicas de Hartford y también por compartir sus pensamientos y preocupaciones. Nosotros tomamos sus preocupaciones muy seriamente y hemos establecido un protocolo para el seguimiento y respuesta a inquietudes planteadas. El personal hará un seguimiento dentro de las 48 horas si es necesario, a través del método de contacto preferido que el orador haya indicado en la hoja de registro. Seguiremos este método de seguimiento sin contacto por el momento, adhiriéndonos a los protocolos de seguridad. Esa persona investigará su caso y se comunicará con usted dentro de 48 horas. Les recordamos que tienen 3 minutos para hablar. Cuando han pasado 2 minutos, el timbre sonará y dejándole saber que le queda 1 minuto. Al segundo sonido, por favor, termine sus comentarios. Susan Hangen.
Good evening, Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, Chairman and Board members. My name is Susan Hangen. I have taught in the Hartford Public Schools for 24 years and I'm retiring this June. I have a total of 40 years of teaching behind me. I was the 2016 Music Educator of the Year for the state of Connecticut. As a few of you know, I have had a powerhouse of a music program at Renzulli Academy. Nearly everyone in the school plays a band or orchestra instrument and sings in the choir. I had students who studied their instrument privately at the Hart School, University of Hartford, played in ensembles there, and played in other community music events in Hartford and in the state, including the Northern Region Festival and Litchfield Jazz Camp. I built similar programs at Annie Fisher 20 years ago and at Kinsella over a decade ago. Many people are stunned when they hear a concert at Renzulli, not expecting the quality they hear. The sad reality in Hartford is that there are nearly no Hartford public schools that have a music program. Schools that offer general music class once or twice a week, essentially to provide a preparation period for academic teachers, is not a music program. It has been proven over and over again that music programs, specifically instrumental music programs, enhance learning in all academic areas, make students more disciplined, create a culture of teamwork, raise the level of discourse, and give kids hope, imperative for a generation that will have to tackle the most profound challenges our country faces today. It seems there is a resistance in some schools to offer this essential education. Maybe administrators are afraid of the pull-out lessons that are necessary to start students off in the first couple of years. Or maybe people really believe it's an unnecessary appendage to public education. But tens of thousands of dollars have been spent recently purchasing band instruments for our high schools that no one knows how to play because of the absence of programs at the elementary level. There is no legitimate reason to deny urban youth a chance to play an instrument. We discriminate against these kids every day we don't provide this opportunity. Musicians don't cause trouble, they don't hurt people, they don't hate. In the band, the orchestra, and the choir, this is where we learn to work with others, to work in groups, to help other people, and to love other people. We learn to emote in a most positive way. We profoundly remember the events in our lives that make us emote. The first step the Hartford Public Schools has to take to provide these programs to Hartford students is for the administration to express the curiosity to find out how to do it. I truly hope that curiosity finds its way into the sunlight. Thank you.
Raquel Calderón.
Good evening, Dr. Torres, Board of Education. My name is Raquel Calderon, and I'm talking on behalf of several substitutes, actually numerous substitutes today, but I also wanted to mention that I work in the same place where Susan, and she's excellent, and I'm sad to see her go. That's Susan, and I agree with everything she said. The next thing that I wanted to say is my last day was in HMTCA, and I was touched when I heard in the intercom the substitute names saying thank you for helping us and going through this year. That was really touching. I really felt really good, and many teachers said thank you, Raquel, for helping this year, and I hope you come back next year. That was really, to me, it was rewarding. The other thing that I came here, especially today, is to talk representing many substitute teachers. We had a professional development scheduled for 16 and 17, and I'm going to be short on that. And we were sad. It was not planned correctly, short notice. The instructions that were given in the paper and the instructions and the plans were not clear. We had problems to get into the system. Right away at 7 o'clock, 7:14 exactly, I sent an email to the person who said, if you have any questions, please, give us that. That was never returned, no answer in that. And people were calling me, oh, I'm having trouble, so we were communicating back and forth, and then in the plans it says that we have to do these modules, the 16 through the 17, and then 18 we got to fill out something, and this is, and you're only gonna get paid for one day. So I'm over here to talk to the superintendent, who is the top boss. We need to get paid for 2 days. We spend more than 16 hours, 17 hours to do this, and some of them over 20 hours. And it's illegal to make people work 2 days and not pay them. So I am please asking the superintendent to please talk to the people who planned this training. And we always had it in person, and I don't even understand why we didn't have it in person. We, the substitute teachers, go and take care of the kids in person. We need someone to teach it or something when we had questions, and we didn't have that. And it was not well explained. Each module had like 17 courses. One had 17, the other one had 22, the other had 4 courses. We didn't know whether we had to do only one or the whole thing, and we were going all over the place trying to do the whole thing. So I am please asking that somebody get in touch with me and, you know, or come to our hall to have a meeting with the substitute teacher so we can talk about this, so the next time will be better. That's all I'm asking for, and thank you.
Michael Downs.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. My name is Michael Downs. I live at 74 Rosemont Street in Hartford. And I too want to address the recent professional development with the substitute teachers. For 28 years, we've had this program of professional development for substitute teachers. And it's always been coordinated and ran smoothly with a concerted effort on behalf of the board and the union. And we worked together well to plan and put on this each professional development. This past week, last week, Thursday and Friday, we had professional development. We had one email go out to request talk about professional development, and we had an instruction paper back by email stating the procedure for the professional development. And it wasn't necessarily in person. It was just to be done online. And some people did meet at Hartford Public High School library to work on it. And the problem with it was confusing, imprecise, and it was too general. Some of the instructions were too general, as Raquel mentioned, that many of the people didn't understand whether they were to do in a certain category, do all of the lessons or just one. So what we request is a little more coordination, and I believe the problem there was that there was no coordination with the union. And if anything, I'm the guy that they should coordinate with. And nobody did. It was just felt that, well, they needed technology education, so therefore we'll have them do it online. Well, you know, a lot of people are very weak in the technology area, so we needed really an in-person professional development to work on that. And technology is not something you can learn in one day. Also, I want to say that the board has to do more for music, art, and library. We don't do enough. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
We now move on to the report of the chair. As it has been noted in previous Finance Committee meetings, you will hear tonight from the superintendent regarding the district surplus of approximately $16 million due to staffing shortages. You will see on the agenda this evening a vote for leveraging some of those funds to help many of our students and families financially and academically. As the board continues to improve and become highly effective, and in an effort to leverage best governance practice, we will leverage the Association of Board of Education. Our goal is to be more effective, impactful, and to our students. Lastly, as you know, we have started again the practicing of having board committee chairs give a brief verbal report for each committee meeting. Due to the fact that some board members are not here today, those reports can be found on board docs as in previous practices. Again, a reminder that all committee and workshop meetings are live streamed as well as viewable after the meeting. The YouTube links are saved for each meeting on board docs. I encourage the community to view the meetings and read through the reports when possible. If you have any questions, please contact Christina Santiago, our board liaison, at csantiago@hartfordschools.org. We will now move to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. Just reminding everyone that my extended report is on board docs. I will share a few highlights under each of our priorities under Welcoming Culture and Climate. The Office of Schools and the Office of Performance and Accountability recently collected valuable feedback as part of our Spring 2022 Climate and Culture Survey. So we are happy to report that we have surpassed our goals in terms of participation among all three groups, students, families, and staff. We had a goal, for example, for students. Our spring goal was 77% of students responding, and 77.4% of our students responded. The goal for families was 29%. We are at 34%, and staff, we had a goal to have at least 63% of our staff respond, and we are at 79.1%. A summary of the survey results will be presented to board members during one of our summer committee of the whole meetings. Regarding the general surplus and some strategic investments, we've been able to make strategic investments around fiscal sustainability, $5.6 million of our surplus to protect the non-lapsing account for next year. We've also made investments in our staff retention with $5.3 million for year-end gratitude incentives and retro pay for our school security, our paraeducators, maintenance and health professional contracts. And though, we spent some time this year, our teams doing the walkthroughs, not only around teaching and learning, but also with regard to our learning environments. And so there was also a building safety and facilities investment of $3.9 million, inclusive of maintenance, new technology, medical equipment, sports equipment, and more. And lastly, as presented to the school, the Finance Committee and the Family and Community Engagement Committee, the discussion was for a $2 million investment in innovative programming that called the post-graduation investment, which provides financial incentives and post-graduation investments for Hartford resident students that maintain 90% attendance or higher and graduate from Hartford Public Schools. This is an opportunity potentially available for students in grades kinder through 12, and is in alignment with two of our major goals. And we know that we had several questions with regard to school safety and security. We have communicated several of our resources, the training, the protocols across our schools. So I just want to remind our community again, we've shared this message in our weekly communications, in our newsletter, but if you haven't been able to access, please, there's a detailed information there. And lastly, I want to just shout out the amazing work that all of our teachers, staff, administrators, our entire school community have done this year, obviously supporting one another and graduating, getting our students to graduation. We actually have been able to celebrate 929 graduates, and that does not include the students that will graduate in August. And we know we've seen improvements in our graduation rates, right? We've been able to increase graduation rates by 3.5% since 2017, and want to just again extend gratitude to everyone in our community, and specifically call out the team in some of our comprehensive high schools that have been part of the Student Success Centers. few notes that I want to share with you. For example, the Weaver graduating class, 63% of the Weaver graduates this year were students that participated in the Student Success Center. And we know that, Hartford High had also a great number of students in the Success Center. So I just want to highlight the fact that, this is a commitment that you all as a board made several years ago and that we'll continue to expand. Next year we will expand Buckley, all to allow our students to have opportunities to extend their learning and the opportunities to be successful. So I want to thank the team in Dr. Negron's office, Ms. Liliana Cuevas and the entire team for their diligence and support in making that vision a reality for our students and for our families. That concludes my report, Chairman.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I also want to echo my gratitude and great appreciation not only to the staff, but our teachers and our families throughout the district in supporting our young scholars, and love hearing the 3.5% increase. As you know, as a board, we're always looking for more, so looking forward to the continued success. We will now move to the business agenda. Before we dive into the agenda, I do want to acknowledge that we have board member, Secretary Yahaira Escribano on the line. Per executive order, she's allowed to join virtually for her attendance. As we all know, we're still very much trying to get back to normal and out of COVID, and I just want to acknowledge Ms. Escribano's commitment to be here tonight. With that being said, let's move forward. Item 4.1 for approval, transfer of funds to Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the transfer in the amount of $2 million to the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Superintendent?
Thank you. As I shared in my report, and these were also conversations had in several of our committees, the post-graduation investment will expand our efforts to support students in post-graduation journeys and motivate and incentivize positive attendance habits as early as kindergarten. So this innovative approach provides financial incentives for students that focus not only on the attendance, but also developing deeper connections with their schools and graduate with post-graduation plans. Students can earn up to $2,100 in scholarship funding from Hartford Public Schools upon graduation if they fulfill the following criteria. So we have what we're calling a launching pad in grades kinder through 5 beginning in fall 2022, promotes early attendance habits and introduces a pathway to post-graduation success during those formative years. So $100 in scholarship funding will be awarded to each year for each student who has 90% or better attendance. Students that are Hartford residents, they're enrolled in Hartford Public Schools Elementary School and graduates from Hartford Public Schools High School. A student who meets these requirements in all of the 6 years can receive $600 for either a 2-year or 4-year college degree, trade, or certificate program upon graduation from high school. The launching pad in 6th through 8th grade, also beginning in fall 22, this encourages post-graduation planning by providing additional scholarship opportunities. And so this would be $500 in scholarship awarded to each student who has a 90% or better attendance, Hartford resident, is enrolled at one of our middle schools, middle grades in Hartford Public Schools, graduates from Hartford Public Schools, and qualifies for the Hartford Promise as a Hartford Promise Scholar. A student who meets these requirements all 3 years receives $1,500 for a 2-year, 4-year trade or certificate program upon graduating from high school. And so as you can see, this is stackable earnings towards post-graduation pursuits for our students. And when students, ideally, given all the other supports that we will have in place, in alignment with our priorities and our strategies, the expectation is that these innovative programs will help motivate and create more students that are achieving at higher levels and also potentially can earn the Hartford Promise Scholarship, which, if some of you might know, allows students to receive $20,000 in scholarship and additional funding in some other universities or colleges that match that award. So I'll stop there to see if there are any questions.
Thank you. Looking to my colleagues to see if there's any questions. Seeing no questions. The motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the transfer in the amount of $2 million to the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Item 4.2, contract continuation approval, effective school solutions. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Effective School Solutions for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th of 2023, not to exceed $1,671,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Superintendent?
Thank you. One of the most urgent national challenges facing young people is mental health. Even prior to COVID, there was a mental health epidemic affecting our nation's students, with 1 in 5 students suffering from a mental health disorder. The increase in mental health challenges also has been negatively impacted when we think about the need for therapeutic outplacements for students with especially intensive challenges and overwhelming, it's been overwhelming the existing counseling staff across our schools. So last year, if you remember, there was an approval of the initiative with Effective School Solutions, which is a regional leader in providing school-based mental health care for students, also to dramatically strengthen our mental health support continuum. And so we want to report some of the outcomes from year 1. We've seen some strong successes, specifically hiring and staffing for an 11-person team to provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 intensive mental health services across 6 schools: Buckley High School, Martin Luther King Middle, Milner Middle, Hartford Public High School, McDonough Middle, and Weaver High School. These intensive wraparound service delivery models included over 4,500 therapeutic services delivered to over 80 students, 30% decrease in average disciplinary incidents per week after students had participated with their ESS and benefited from their supports, 30% decrease in chronic absenteeism for students participating, and 67% of students maintaining or increasing their GPA. Also, the creation of a library of mental health related professional development offerings, because we also wanted to build capacity across our groups of staff, and via the delivery of 6 large-scale professional development sessions and 4 virtual parent workshops. And for the 2023 school year, we'd like to build off of that success by continuing the support for the 6 schools I referenced, but also expanding services to 2 schools that have requested support: Burr Middle School and Betances STEM Magnet Academy. And the services provided will include a comprehensive Tier 3 wraparound program that provides individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy, the monthly parent caregiver support group, urgent clinical sessions, the push in support into our classrooms, and quality and risk management services, specialized protocols, and the direct clinical supervision through the on-site program coordination.
Do we have members of?
Yes. Our team is.
Are they here? Yeah.
Yes, so Duncan Young is here, and teams from ESS are here, and also Ms. Jennifer Hoffman, in case we have questions with regard to service needs in Hartford Public Schools.
Thank you. I'll look to my colleagues. Mr. Walker, do you have a question?
I'd like to have even though we went over the financial piece of it in committee, I have a note here that we need to really understand the services better, what they are, and how they're benefiting the target populations, which are children and families. So if you can provide that, that would be appreciated.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for the question. My name is Duncan Young. I'm the CEO at Effective School Solutions. I'm joined tonight by Amy Barrett, who is our full-time on-site program coordinator here in Hartford Public Schools. So to answer your question, I don't know if we have access to the PowerPoint. I believe you have it in your pre-reading materials. I believe it's on slide 5, which provides a breakdown of the 4,000 plus sessions that we have provided as part of the program model. Let me first briefly describe the Tier 3 program model. We refer to this, as Dr. Torres Rodriguez mentioned, as a wraparound model. So the idea is to provide multiple therapeutic touch points for students over the entire course of a school day, and to bridge those services into the family component. So family therapy, which we aim to do biweekly, and a parent caregiver support session, which is something that we do monthly, where we bring parents together to learn from each other about how they can help manage some of the challenges that their young people might be going through. Those are all key parts of the model. Let me just pause there. Does that help to answer your question?
It does, but I think I want you to break it down one more level to really talk about what its impact is. My belief is what you're trying to do is to keep young engaged with mainstream school, as opposed to having to be offloaded to a therapeutic school or something of that nature. So I think explaining it in that way to understand, yes, here's what we do and here's how what we do keep you on task in the mainstream school setting versus alternatives.
100%. So I'll kick that off and then I'll pass it over to Amy to fill in the blanks on anything that I'm missing. So we really think about the impact of ESS services as being broken down into 3 different buckets or categories. The first one is we're aiming to achieve therapeutic improvement with a student population that is suffering with mental health challenges, emotional challenges, behavioral challenges that are meaningfully impacting their ability to engage with their academic pursuits and to engage as part of the school community. So the first thing that we really want to look at is making sure that their symptomology is improving, that we actually are seeing an improvement therapeutically in whatever mental health challenge they might be suffering from, anxiety, depression, et cetera. And those are things that we measure by looking at treatment plans and achievement of treatment plan goals. One of the indicators that you'll see in the package that we provided to you tonight is we actually have a number of indicators. One is called a wellness indicator, so it's a student self-reporting their wellness, and then we have a clinician actually reporting out progress that students are achieving versus their therapeutic goals. And what you'll see in the graph that's provided as part of the packet that you have access to tonight is significant improvement. Specifically, we reduce the percentage of students reporting negative wellness by over 50% from the beginning of the school year towards the end of the school year. So that's category 1, that therapeutic improvement.
If I can stop just for a second. Do we have access to that packet? Oh, it's in teaching. Okay, that's why I didn't.
The second category is improvements in school performance indicators like grades, discipline, and attendance. And in all three of those measures, I'm really pleased to report that, as Dr. Torres Rodriguez just mentioned, Hartford Public Schools saw significant improvements for students participating in the ESS program. We actually have some updated data above and beyond what was just shared with you a couple of minutes ago. That's part of the packet. On our Teaching and Learning Committee meeting, Mr. Rigger asked us to actually go and compare some of those results versus what other first-year districts implementing ESS services actually achieved. And we did look at that. The headline on that is from a disciplinary standpoint. Hartford Public Schools saw a 54% decrease in average disciplinary incidents per student for students participating in the ESS program. For the comparison set of other first-year districts that we looked at, that decrease was 13%. So it was almost a 4 to 5 times greater effect that we saw here in Hartford Public Schools versus the comparison districts that we looked at. In attendance, we saw a 42% decrease in absences with students participating in the ESS program. That comparison number was 28% for students in the comparison districts that we looked at. And GPA, we saw modest increases in GPA in both Hartford Public Schools and in the other districts that we looked at. So in all three of those measures, significant progress. The third piece that we really look at is, are we being successful in retaining students in district? So many of the students that we're servicing as part of a Tier 3 program would be students who would be at risk of outplacement to a specialized school without the support that you're providing them in district. And this year we had a 98% retention rate of students participating in the ESS program in district, many of whom were at high risk of outplacement if they weren't receiving these types of intervention services.
Thank you. I would like your colleague to give her a chance.
So I could talk a little bit about what the clinicians are providing in school every day. Can't hear me? Okay, is that better? Down. So I can talk a little bit about what our team of clinicians is providing in the schools every day with the students who are in our program. So as Duncan was saying, we do the bi-monthly or bi-weekly family sessions. We are in constant contact with families. Most of our clinicians are talking with our parents and guardians and caretakers about daily. We also offer weekly individual sessions. We try to do daily group sessions. Some of our scheduling gets a little strange in some of the schools, so we're averaging about 2 to 3 group sessions a week. And then we also offer our in-the-moment PRN or crisis response. So if students are struggling in the classrooms or struggling in the cafeteria or outside, our clinicians are available to respond in the moment to work through some of their skills to learn to de-escalate and then get them back into the school environment.
Okay, so are you working like in a RISE program, or how are you
No,
working
we're not
within,
in the RISE programs.
How are you working within, how do students access you within schools?
So
then?
we worked through streamlining a referral process. Most of our students who are now in our program came through the administrative teams or the social work teams in the schools that we're in. So they picked out their students that were at the highest risk, like Duncan was saying, for outplacement. Also students who showed the most challenges throughout the day and needed that more intensive in-the-moment support that I just referenced. So that's how students came to us through the MTSS process. We triaged every single referral that came to us with Jen Hoffman's team. And so that's how the students that we ended the year with, through about October to the end of the year, we had a steady stream of referrals into the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mic check 1, 2. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm very pleased to hear this report of your experiences in our schools. I also appreciate the 22% discount that I see here in my packet. But I do have a question, a clarification question. To what I understand, intensive wraparound service delivery, including over 4,500 therapeutic services delivered to over 80 students. Can you provide some clarification? Because the numbers, it sounds like there's a lot of services given, but it just reads a lot more services than there are students. So if you could just provide some clarity of what that is.
The average of, can you hear me? Our student, I feel like I can hear myself. Our students averaged about 50 sessions each throughout the school year. Through those, the individual family group and our in the moment crisis response. So it does, with our 80 students, it averaged out to about 50 sessions through the time of the school year. Like I said, our referrals came in October through the end of the year, so there was some variance in the time spent in program. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, in a multi-tier systems of support framework, we're operating at that highest level. So by definition, it's going to be the smallest number of students, but the most intense level of service delivery. So when we use that term wraparound support, that's really what we're referring to. Relatively, we're generally talking about the 2, 3, 4% of students within a school building that need that highest level of need and might actually be, taxing 70, 80% of staff time and staff attention if we aren't providing these additional support. So one of the metrics that we track in our internal delivery is what we call therapeutic density or therapeutic engagement. So we really want to see the average number of therapeutic interactions per student per week being at least 3 or greater. And as you can see in the package provided to you today, that number has exceeded 3 in every month of delivery and has even approached 4 in many of the months of delivery. So we really want that high level of therapeutic density with every student that we're servicing.
Appreciate it. I also appreciate the 30% decrease in chronic absenteeism. I think that's something that, or not think, I know that's something that we wanted to address, and definitely appreciate that. My final question to you, can you just give some clarification on what urgent clinical sessions are?
Those are the in-the-moment response. So if a student is escalating or having some sort of challenge in the school environment, our clinicians step right in. We've come up with procedures that the school staff know when to contact our staff, and the staff will respond immediately and help to de-escalate the student, working through a set of coping skills. We use reset plans that list each student's individual plan, and with the goal to get back into the classroom or wherever they might be in that moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Oliver?
Thank you, and thank you for your responses and care with the data and the metrics. I really do appreciate it. So moving forward, if this is approved, there is this expansion, and I don't know if this is also perhaps a question to HBS staff, but I'm just thinking about, we said 80, identified by school staff as our young people with high needs that you are meeting, and looking to go as high as 120. So obviously that is a pretty decent increase, which may be in those 2 new schools, but also perhaps across the current 6, right? So I'm just thinking about that growth. If there are any concerns, are there other things that you have to do with your team to build up capacity to be able to handle that? Is it more so first year you've planted the seed, you're good to go, economies of scale, just thinking about that growth, and year 2 and how you plan on tackling that? And again, might be you guys or HPS staff.
So I believe the plan is to hire 2 additional staff to go into Burr Middle School, and then also increase the caseloads of our existing staff in our existing 6 schools.
And Ms. Oliver, you're exactly right. In year 1 of any time we're working with a district, we're going and working to integrate our processes into the existing processes that you have in the district. In this case, the very highly evolved MTSS process that already existed for referrals. So, Amy and Dr. Negron and Ms. Hoffman and Ms. Doyle spent a tremendous amount of time early in the year just making sure we were hooked in. We had our referral process hooked into your referral process, and if you could view a graph of referrals over time, we didn't go immediately to 80 on day 1. It took time to get up to that, and now that machinery is hooked up, we will be much more rapid in being able to intake that, that next 40 students than it took us to do students 1 through 80, if that answers your question.
Thank you, it does. Thank you.
I actually do have a question, and I posed this during committee, and I think it would be good for public consumption here. So there's a slight increase in cost. Can you talk about cost as it relates to actually students being served and the correlation around that number that we have here in front of us?
Sure, I have those numbers handy right here. So last year's fee was $1,563,000. This year, the cost is $1,671,000. That's because of the expansion of the footprint. So that's a 7% increase in cost, a 20% increase in capacity. The cost per student is actually decreasing by 11%, and that's going from a cost per student of $13,591 to a cost per student of $12,108. So again, 7% increase in cost, 20% increase in capacity, 11% decrease in cost per student.
Thank you. Ms. Board Member Escobar wanted to see if you have any questions.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. The motion on the floor is that Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Effective School Solutions for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2023, not to exceed $1,671,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Item 4.3, contract approval, Achievement Network. Motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Achievement Network for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2023 at the amount not to exceed $1.37 million. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Superintendent?
Thank you. This continuation of partnership and support is in alignment with our priority on high quality teaching and learning and the feedback that we receive from teachers and school leaders with regard to building their capacity. So during the 21-22 school year, the partnership focused on 3 main bodies of work. That was math curriculum, support to the math curriculum team, supporting the evaluation and adoption of new instructional material. And in the spring, the team began planning for implementation of that instructional material that was selected. Another bucket of work that we have completed is with the ELA curriculum team, supporting the instructional materials and supplementing to align more closely with the literacy shifts and standards. And of course, they made also the recommendations to adopt more highly aligned materials. And lastly, all schools throughout the district have engaged in school-based instructional leadership coaching to support the implementation of our instructional vision. As we look at next year, the partnership, if approved, will be anchored in advancing the progress toward focusing on 2 levels, so system support and then school level support. With regard to system support, focusing on instructional materials implementation, phase 1 for math curriculum, and the team advancing progress in a set key areas to focus on implementing the 6th through 12th grade, the new curriculum. Also in ELA, instructional materials evaluation and selection. The ultimate goal here is to select the high quality curriculum and develop a strong communication plan and implementation. And so ANIT will support with leaders, teachers, and community members being part of the curriculum adoption committee so that it is a collaborative process and leads to the adoption of our K-12 ELA curriculum. And then at a system level, the professional learning, making sure that the ANIT system coaches engage with our math instructional coaches to provide support, modules, equitable instruction, curriculum rollout, prioritizing questions and problems in lessons. And that's at the system level. At the school-based level, we would like to continue the job-embedded school-based coaching so that ANET does support all of our 39 schools to develop instructional leaders who have the skills and the leadership capacity to support teachers in delivering data-driven, standards-aligned instruction. And again, indirect feedback from the strategic planning feedback sessions when we develop the ESSER and ARP application.
Thank you. I do want to acknowledge that we have ANET online. So to my board members, any questions? Board member Oliver?
Hi, and I'm trying to still formulate this question. I'm thinking about, and I apologize, I was not able to make the last teaching and learning committee meeting. So obviously the curriculum strategy, their overall academic strategy is pretty large, right? Dr. Negron, she's shared this with us many times. And I'm thinking about how this interweaves with some of the other work that's happening. And in particular, I'm thinking about ELA and the work now that's being done in the schools around the science of reading. So as I see the coaching piece for our teachers, so you're now seeing why I'm struggling to formulate this question. I'm thinking in my head, okay, there's obviously these intersecting points between all of that work, and just wondering, is this piece of when they're doing the coaching more about the curriculum materials piece? And I'm trying to connect that to, is it Learn, perhaps, the other work that we're doing? Or I can't remember with the science of reading, but oh, letters. Why am I saying Learn? Letters, exactly. So I'm just thinking about how these things connect, and if you could just clarify that for me and help me with that, that would be great, especially as we continue the work, which I think is pretty important work, but just thinking about all these pieces.
Absolutely. So indeed, the work is extremely large as we think about curriculum, but this particular partnership per se, it's number one, you asked a question around the professional learning and the coaching. There is coaching on the academic side for the Office of Academics, because the partnership will also support the Office of School Leadership through the embedded coaching that happens to our school principals. So I'm just gonna speak right now in terms of on the academic side. The coaching is more than to support our instructional coaches in being able to lift the support that is going to have to come directly into our classroom teachers to be able to lift the full implementation of the new math curriculum that was just selected and that will be adopted now in 22-23. So that is that particular aspect of the coaching that is built into the partnership. The other piece as it relates to ELA is to follow a similar process that we use this year with ANET to engage in that whole collaborative practice, multiple stakeholders looking, reviewing, and analyzing potential curriculum that's out there that is fully aligned to the standards, so that eventually through that process, there will be agreement as to which curriculum we should bring and adopt K-12. So that piece, as continuing to support our math department with the implementation plan that was just developed in 21-22. So that is all of the piece and all the support that will come through the Office of Academics. On the other side, again, part of this contract is also to support our building leaders in being able to have that embedded coaching. So when I want to now reference the piece that you spoke about related to the science of reading and letters. That is where it is the support that comes into that building leader as they're walking into classroom, developing the instructional eye, so then they're able to provide concrete feedback to our teachers, so we're continuing to grow them. And we actually, Chief Avila is here with me today. She oversees that particular side of the partnership. And I know that we also have some principals with us today, should there be some questions about that piece of the work.
That was really helpful. I know other people were following, but that was actually really, really helpful. Thank you, Dr. Negro.
You're welcome.
Board Member Walker.
Yeah, I need to understand the value proposition here. So I guess I really want to hear a voice of teachers and voice of maybe principals, if someone can offer it. I understand everything you're talking about. I totally get it's important. We have instructional coaches that work for the district, and you have supervisors and you have experienced teachers who get PD all the time. So what I'm trying to tease out is the $1.3 something million of extra value that the consultants are providing beyond what the instructional coaches and everyone else who already has years. You get what I'm saying?
I completely.
So help me understand where their value is really coming in that.
So this is where I'm going to be inviting Chief Avila to come up and explain what that embedded coaching looks like, because the delivery of service goes directly into our building leaders. So this is not the piece that goes directly into the teachers. So it goes into the building leader that then funnels down into the entire school.
Good evening. So at each school, there is an instructional team that works with the principal and the administration very closely. That team consists of teachers, it consists of instructional coaches, as well as the administration. And that team really reviews data on a regular basis. They really support the learning that needs to happen and build the capacity of the staff members in that building with the focus on instruction. And what they do is they literally plan out the professional learning. One of the things they do, the professional learning that's going to build the capacity of our teachers. It's in alignment with the instructional vision walkthroughs, and it's in alignment with the curriculum that needs to happen, as well as the needs of the teachers, identifying who needs instructional coaches to support them in cycles to increase their increase their craft of teaching. And so the ANET coaches, because they have all of the other experiences that Dr. Negron just spoke about, supports the coherence of all of that work, and works very closely with the principal and the instructional team to see that it happens and comes alive in the classroom, and what needs to happen to increase the capacity and accelerate learning on a daily basis. And so they meet individually with principals as well as the team. This year, each school had 15 visits from their instructional coach physically, but then they also had virtual sessions as well to really support and have those conversations of making sure that their plans support what needs to happen in each building.
Thank you. Do we have a representative from staff or the school leadership?
We have Principal Sullivan here with us, and so I'm going to turn it over to her. Thank you, Principal Sullivan.
Careful.
Good catch. Quick hands. Good evening. I was not planning on speaking tonight. I was here for the valedictorian event, but I'm happy to speak to it and just give you some concrete examples. Those of you who know me know I'm very direct. And I'll be honest, at the start of the year, when I heard I had all these sessions with ANET, I thought, I don't have any free minutes in my day. We already have the work mapped out for the year. I don't know where and how this is going to fit. And I was a little skeptical. Total disclosure. I have been very, very pleasantly surprised with the work that we've done with ANET. And my ultimate litmus test is there a difference in classroom instruction, therefore impacting student learning? And if that happens, to me, that's time well spent. And I'll just explain a little bit about how that happened. For us at Classical, we looked at student work, we engaged in teaching and learning cycles, and we identified from the instructional vision that high expectations will be our focus for the year. And within high expectations, we honed in very specifically on productive struggle, the growth mindset, productive struggle, and elevating student discourse, because with remote learning last year, that was an area that was weak. My first meeting with my ANET coach, I said, look, I'm sure you're a very nice person. I don't have a lot of time.
this is what I need from you. I need you to meet with my ILT. We meet bi-weekly after school. This is the only time that we meet. Here's the link, please join us. And she was able to do that. And I said, I need you to help me build the capacity of my teachers to lead the work in the building. Because it can't be from me. It can't just be from our central office team. It can't be from an ANET person. I need you to help me build the capacity of teachers to lead the work so that we can have a significant impact on teaching in our school. So that was one area that I utilized her support. The second one was, to be honest, I just needed a really good thought partner that was removed from the day-to-day. In a school, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot happening in the course of a day. The day goes by very quickly. All of a sudden it's 2:40 and students are dismissing, and it's like, oh my God, how's it 2:40 already? There's like so much happening. It's very easy to get pulled off course from instruction. We are instructional leaders. We want to work specifically on teaching and learning and have that be the majority of our day. But there's the reality of being in a 6 through 12 school and all of the moving parts. What I appreciate about ANET is I said to her, we are only going to talk about instruction. You are going to hold me accountable. In 2 weeks when we meet, I'm going to have a learning walk tool. I'm going to have my professional development slideshow. I'm going to have my ILT agenda ready with links. And then I'd meet with her and she'd say, okay, where is it? And I'd have to show, you know, and even if it was the night before of, oh no, I got to get this ready for tomorrow. It was that extra person to really kind of push my practice. And I appreciate that. And there are times when it was a little bit stressful, but it was pushing my practice, I think, as a principal in the right way. So that accountability partner, that thought partner. There are times when I would meet with her and say, look, all we do is turn and talk, turn and talk, turn and talk. We want higher level discourse. And she would immediately pull up, here's a variety of protocols. Here are some ways to support all learners in the classroom. And that's something I could easily turnkey to my ILT to then share with teachers. And then to go into a classroom and see those protocols in effect, like quickly, is very exciting. Sometimes our continuous improvement cycles take a long time. You get a little impatient, like, hey, when am I going to see it? I want to go into a classroom. I want to see it in action. So our productive struggle focus, I think, is the best professional learning we've had in the 3 years I've been at Classical, because there was an immediate impact. One of our Latin teachers calls them puggles for fun. So instead of productive struggle, we call it our puggles. And all of the teachers talk puggles. Students talk puggles. They know that in some classes, if a teacher says we're going to do a puggle today, that means before modeling, before showing, before didactic instruction, you are presenting a really complex problem to students. They are working through it independently. They're then working on it collaboratively, and then they're talking about their thinking at the start of the lesson. And so it's just become a thing at Classical. And not that it's only at Classical, but it's become a thing that we have that we're really proud of this year. And I do think my connection with my ANET coach helped it happen. It kept me on track. When there are a million things that could be going on in a school, it kept me focused on the right thing, which ultimately is teaching and learning.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer questions if you'd like.
Board Member Walker?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be brief though. All right, so I got you. So what you're talking about now is you're getting coached for the most part. And maybe
And my teacher leaders, yeah.
Now, what you said was great, that it was digestible and usable at an actual teaching level. So outcome, can you hear me still?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So it was great that you got moved, and it was great that there was digestible, real, implementable stuff at a classroom level. So what was your outcome? How did you see a needle being moved? Did student outcome or did student engagement? How did you say, wow, this is better for the student-teacher interaction?
Sure, so there's a few different data points. I mean, our reading data improved this year, so there's some that are more indirectly connected, but we conduct what we call learning walks. And so we took productive struggles, we broke it down into very specific look-fors in our school, in our classroom, aligned to the instructional vision and the Hartford look-fors. And teachers went out into each other's classrooms. Initially, it was within their content area team, so science teachers would visit the science rooms. Even for discourse, we broke down very discreetly what are students talking about. Are they sharing their thinking? Are they posing questions? Are they challenging the ideas of others? Are they building on the ideas of others? We got super, super concrete. We tracked all of our data, and we looked at, from our baseline one to the spring one, which areas did we grow,
in which areas do we still need to develop, which is where we're going to pick up next year with our work. So learning walk data, student work. So we had in our data teams, teachers brought student work samples from the productive struggle activities in there, and then they would do a feedback protocol where they would look at student work. They would look at student work from before this learning cycle and look at it now and look at the level of rigor. Because all of this is about raising the academic rigor while providing the right amount of support, right? So if the work is too hard, students shut down. If the work is too easy, they're bored. It's about that right amount of challenge with the right amount of support. And so the student work really shows that well.
Thank you.
Board Member Escobar.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to make sure everybody can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Great. And you guys look good from this angle, by the way. I'll keep my question brief. This is great, and anything that we can do to support our principals, our staff, teachers, everyone. Growing, I think my concern and my question is, when you have these content leads of teachers, are they being pulled out from their classrooms to do these walks? If so, how is that being coordinated? How are we providing those coverage? Because the last thing I would want to see is a teacher pulled from there to go look at another teacher while they have class. So what are we doing to support these our content lead teachers who are in this process? So making sure they're fully supported.
That's a really good question. So I can just speak to classical, but at classical, we have a 7-period rotation, and 2 of those 5 are prep periods. One of those prep periods is with everyone within your content area team. So for example, the math department all has period 5. They meet every Thursday, period 5, from August through the end of the year, where they collaborate. Their second prep period is different from the people in the department. So when the math department goes out to do a visit, they can use that extra prep period, that second one, when they're able to observe the math teachers, or when they, at the end of the year, it was exciting for people to get into, if you're math, get into science, history, Latin. So during that period 5, all of the math teachers can go out, they can conduct learning walks in other classrooms, and then they come back to their data team and they look at the data together. And then ultimately what happens is our instructional leadership team, our ILT, through working with Rochelle, who's our ANET coach, we analyze the school-wide patterns. And at the last staff meeting, they share it out. Here's some successes from the year. Here's some areas for growth. This is what we're going to hone in on next year. And it's our ANET coach helping me lead that work and being a thought partner. There are times when we're so close to the work that sometimes we don't see things that someone with a different perspective can kind of point out or push our thinking. And I thought that Rochelle did an excellent job with that.
Thank you. And that's great to hear. I think my last, recommendation, encouragement would be if you're open to it and the superintendent and her team, what I would encourage and recommend is, it seems like you guys have a great system in place for this and it's efficient and effective. Coordinating with other schools who may still be figuring it out. It's still, for lack of a better term, still a hot mess and they're still trying to figure it out. I would highly encourage setting up some time for you guys to meet and be authentic and let them know how you worked out those kinks so other schools can be just as effective and efficient with this. Thank you.
No, Board Member Escobar, I appreciate the comment. In addition to that, what I would recommend is possibly emailing the superintendent. I think it was hard for some of us to hear, so just want to make sure that we capture that recommendation and your comment that was made. Are there any other questions or discussions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. The motion on the floor is Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Achievement Network for a term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2023 at the amount not to exceed $1.37 million. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. And thank you, Ms. Sullivan, for participating.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 4.4, contract continuation approval, Ready CT. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Ready CT for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2023, at the amount not to exceed $350,020. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Superintendent?
Yes, this continuation, contract extension, is in alignment with our Teaching and Learning Priority 1.3 to increase high school and post-secondary transition supports. We're seeking to support the 2 career pathways, our computer science and our leadership and public service at Buckley High School. So for next year, the partnership will be extended to continue to support the pathways at Buckley High School that I just referenced, and to support the journalism and media pathway at Weaver High School. So Ready CT will lead the design, planning, and implementation of the journalism and media career pathway at Weaver with a dedicated program manager, and a dedicated program manager for the computer science career pathway, and a manager for the leadership and public service career pathway. Some of the key responsibilities of the program managers, which is in alignment with the National Academy Foundation, includes the Industry Advisory Board implementation and operation, collaboration with our corporate and community partners, certainly collaboration with school staff, and supporting, of course, our student outcomes. I will pause there in case there are any questions, because we have our team from Ready CT here.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent. For Ready CT, can I actually please step to the mic, and I'll look towards my colleagues to see if they have any questions for the group. Pastor Johnson.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for waiting patiently for your turn this evening. My question tonight on your scope of services, as someone who is deeply engaged and invested in the community, do you mind just sharing some of your community partners and corporate partners, just so we could be aware?
Sure. Well, good evening. Very pleased to be here this evening to talk about the Ready CT engagement with Hartford Public Schools. I'm joined by my colleagues, Alan Marshall, who's the current Career Pathway Program Manager with the Public Service Pathway at Buckley High School, and CJ Gomez is the Career Pathway Program Manager for the Computer Science Pathway at Buckley High School. And Naila Abdul Rahman has been supporting both CJ and Alan in their work. And we're in the process of looking for a candidate to be the Career Pathway Program Manager for the Journalism and Media Pathway at Weaver High School. We are currently, this will be a continuation of work that we've been doing within Hartford Public Schools. We have been supporting the pathways, starting with the Engineering and Green Technology Pathway at Hartford Public High School back to 2008. That is a partnership with, thinking about some of the industry partners we work with. That is with Raytheon Technologies, formerly United Technologies, as well as Pratt & Whitney, which is a subsidiary of Raytheon. We've added, in partnership with Hartford Public Schools, the second pathway at Hartford Public High School, which is Allied Health, in partnership with Hartford Healthcare. And then with the Travelers Partnership, we have been supporting the Weaver Insurance and Finance Pathway, as well as the Information Technology Pathway at Pathways Academy of Technology and Design. So this will round out to the effect that we'll be supporting all 7 career-themed pathways within Hartford Public Schools, which is incredibly exciting. And I think that it gives us an opportunity to build the learning that we've had in other pathways, to bring that to the newer pathways, and just spread the learning and spread the opportunity and access for the students. Other community partners we work with Hartford Promise, we work with the RISE Network, we work with Center for Latino Progress, Blue Hills Civic Association, the library, Makerspace CT. I mean, you name the partner, we try to build the relationship. Boys and Girls Club of Hartford has been a newer relationship we've been building actually with the Buckley pathway because we're kind of working with the space and the facilities and kind of joining forces with them to bring the space access for some of the students for after school programming that Alan and CJ are facilitating. So lots of partnerships in the work that we're doing so that we can make sure that it's all coordinated and we're connecting dots in ways that make sense for the students and the educators that we partner with.
Appreciate that. Do you, Mr. Chair, just one more question in terms of a paid internship, right? What can you just shed some light on what that? I'm trying to get to how much are these students walking away with. I'm sure they're gaining plenty of experience, but I'm sure they want to go and get some food and they want to buy some sneakers and do some things like that. So on average, what are our students getting as a financially in
the
your
compensation?
internship?
And so we believe aligned with the NAF model, which is the framework that is being used in implementing each of the 7 career theme pathways in Hartford Public Schools. There is a requirement to complete a 120-hour paid internship experience, and they believe very much as we do that the student should be compensated for their time, and then it's treated very much like a professional experience, an event, and the student takes it very seriously, the employer takes it very seriously, and we do everything within our control to ensure that the student is prepared adequately for that experience so that they are set up for success and the employer is set up for success. The compensation, we always try to be just above the minimum wage so that we can ensure that the student is making a reasonable compensation for the time and the effort that they've given to the preparation and the experience itself. So right now we're compensating at $14 an hour, and that'll keep pace and go up next summer to meet the change in the minimum wage at the state level.
Thank you. Final question. Are you seeing the transition, right? You said you've, since 2008, I believe, I'm sure you've seen folks graduate and move on. Have you seen any success of folks moving on to any of these partnerships or corporations?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a number of alumni who actually, for each of the industry advisory boards, we want to have an alum of the pathway and the school part of that experience. And so, for instance, at Pathways Academy, the co-chair of the board, Alex Martinez, is a graduate of Pathways Academy who then continued on into the leadership. He did the Travelers Edge program and then into the leadership development program at Travelers, and is now very committed to them as an employer, as an employer, and also bringing that experience back to the students at Pathways Academy. And we have lots of examples of those, and we're trying to tell those stories more and more so that it spreads, to among the students and the educators, and there's an awareness of how these pathways can really lead to great, exciting opportunities post-graduation.
Board Member Escobar.
Thank you, Chair. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Shannon, I can't see you, but it's a pleasure to hear you. I fully support Ready CT. I'm really excited about the work and the expansion you guys are working on. My question, I guess, is more for the superintendent and for her admin. What are we thinking, and this could be another conversation for one of our committees, but for those kids who don't have an idea of what they want to do for their career, they don't know if they want to go to health, allied services, right, or science, engineer, what is the general path, right, that pathway, general pathways, what are we doing for those kids to offer them opportunities?
Yes, so the idea is for our students to actually, starting in middle school, begin to explore the opportunities, not only among these pathways, but other careers as well. And then that is where another one of our partnerships comes in, which actually Ready CT and Shannon are also part of, with All In, for the students that haven't identified what their post-graduation plan is going to be. And so we're trying to make sure that we have structures in place, Ms. Escorbano, to kind of catch, if you will, all of our students.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Board Member Walker.
Thank you, Chair. So one, your team is doing the pathways at the 3 community schools. Am I understanding that? So you're working with Harvard Public High School as well as Weaver and then Buckley obviously.
Yep.
With the 3 program managers?
No, the program, there's a dedicated career pathway program manager for each pathway. This contract and engagement is specific to the 2 pathways at Buckley and the one at Weaver.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I'd like what you're presenting. I want to understand the program manager's role. Obviously, you're, I guess, facilitating this relationship between companies providing internships and students. It's just soft skills development or technical skills development you're doing with students. And I'm trying to understand how the role you're playing, because to me, when I was coming up, and I guess I'll be old guy here, right? I mean, you had like the teacher sponsor of clubs and groups and things like this, and then they would kind of facilitate this, and you'd have some sponsors from the community that would come do your first robotics and whatnot. So how is this over and beyond kind of that teacher sponsor and that community corporate person that comes in and works with your first robotics or work with your computer science club and that kind of thing?
Sure. I'll actually ask if Alan or CJ want to come up, but really quickly I'll just say that the difference, I think, with the career pathway model that we're supporting and helping to implement in partnership with the school district is very embedded. So it's not an after-school program. It's embedded throughout the school day. It's integrated into thinking about career readiness coursework that the career pathway program managers facilitate, as well as industry-informed curriculum for the courses that the students are taking within the pathway, and the team is just in the schools day in and day out and really connecting to the students to make sense of their learning as it relates to what they'll be experiencing when they go into the world of work. So I'll let Alan or CJ.
Greetings. It is my distinct honor to be able to speak before you guys today, and thank you for all that you do to make the city of Hartford great. My role as a program manager at Buckley High School is to oversee the public service pathway. And if you could picture it, it has 3 tracks. So the first track is education, helping students to understand what's needed in the field of education in case they want to go into that field. The second track would be law and government. That's understanding like entry into like public policy, criminal justice, all sorts of things like that. And then the next field is first response. I happened myself to work at Connecticut Christian Academy in Meriden for several years. I was also a firefighter handling first response. And I also was able to pitch and get approved a $64 million building in Middletown. And so I'm offering that to students. But where that puts me is with the ability to be able to speak the language of the industry that I'm serving, but also the language of the students. Excuse me. But also the language of the students. And so what I do is I provide work-based learning opportunities for students to be able to interact with those industries. So not only are we just telling them about it, but we're showing them it. We give them a living, breathing example of what it means to be in that industry. So we were able to forge partnerships and relationships, as mentioned before, with like the Boys and Girls Club. Just recently was able to speak with Councilman Sanchez and pioneer efforts to get students enrolled in the fire department, the police department, and in dispatch. And so we're working out programs and opportunities for them in that aspect. But then the soft skills come in. Soft skills of timeliness, social media etiquette, dressing for success. What does that mean to a student? We're introducing them to those things right now at their age so that they can not only get internships, but handle and maintain those internships as well.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. That's appreciate it.
Thank you. Board Member Oliver?
Thank you. Just quick question / comment, and I appreciate the great work that Ready CT has done. know Ready CT pretty well, and also the NAF model as a former, many years ago, advisory board member for IFS. So one of the things I'm thinking about, and I'm picking on Weaver, right? Journalism and media is one of the pathways, similar to what you said a bit earlier, taking the lessons learned from others, where we kind of are refreshing or restarting, right? Journalism media has existed, and as a proud former DJ of 89.9 Cute FM, that's usually brought up a lot, the TV station, all of that. I'm just thinking about how that, how do you envision that going to be built in as this pathway is really, I don't even want to say restarted, but kind of like solidified. And I know it's just been some really great assets in this building, as well as history, and also those relationships to what board member Vice Chair Johnson was saying earlier. So just thinking about all of that. So a little bit of a comment, but also I want to give you space for if you want to respond in terms of how you see that coming together.
Yeah, so I think we have deep respect for the history that exists with the journalism and media pathway, and I think coming back online in the next year, the focus will be on in bringing it up to speed with some of the structures of the NAF model that may have been, just needed to be shored up or strengthened. And I know that the theme, and we work very closely with Dr. Daniels, we've been talking about a theme around storytelling and bringing, telling a narrative and how that connects to journalism and media. And so looking for partnerships that will really infuse the pathway with that kind of sensibility and letting students use their voice. So I think it'll be a pathway that, ultimately we want all pathways to be appealing, but we're going to be looking for students that really gravitate to that storytelling approach while still preserving the radio station and thinking about what is new media and a lot of emphasis on kind of referencing what Alan mentioned around the use of social media, the appropriate etiquette, and how to know, how to be a informed consumer of information will be a big focus.
That's fantastic to hear. I look forward to it. That's great.
Thank you. I do have one comment. So first and foremost, thank you for your work. I'm very familiar with all the efforts that you have done, especially as it relates to the medical/healthcare pathway. I work for Hartford Healthcare, so with that being said, for the record, I will be abstaining my vote, but thank you again, and thank you for the presentation and the comments today. With that being said, seeing no additional comments, the motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute a contract with Ready CT for the term outlined in the contract ending June 30th, 2023 at the amount not to exceed $353,020. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? Noted earlier. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Item 4.5, second reading and adoption. Policy 6140, 9012, 9321, 9321.3. The motion that the Hartford Board of Education adopts the following policies. Pastor A.J. Johnson, sorry, let me start over. The motion that the Hartford Board of Education adopts the following policies: 6140, 9012, 9321, and 9321.3. Board Member Johnson.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that group who came up. I appreciate everything that you do. I will try to make this quick, but I'm going to take a moment just to brag as we end this school year on the historical work that our policy committee has done in Hartford Public Schools. We have had a record number of policies that have been relooked at, amended, and just changed to keep up with the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. And I'm just excited about that. And I want everyone in here to give this policy committee a hand for the good work that we are doing. Yes, I'm being selfish. Put your hands together. Wake up. Wake up. There you, get off Facebook. There you go. Get off Instagram. appreciate you. So just really quickly, as I give this report, policy adoption is one of the 3 responsibilities of all Board of Education members. The other 2 are to evaluate the superintendent and adopt the budget. So I just wanted to make that very clear because this is what we do as a board. So as we move to our second reading, this is a second reading to adopt the revisions to the graduation requirements policy 6140. And I'll move through this swiftly. Because of a revision to a Connecticut state statute, we are updating our graduation policy to require 25 credits to graduate and ensure incarcerated youth will earn high school credit and stay on track to graduate. Abilities in credit requirements and recommendations for students. All right, so that is policy 6140. I will read now policy 9012, 9012. This is the second reading to policy 9012. The staff approval process were revised to include the superintendent in cabinet. I will now move on to policy 9321, 9321. This is the second reading to adopt revisions to the board meetings and committees policy. The purpose of this is to increase efficiency. School choice is transitioning to the Family and Community Engagement Committee. I believe that these, wait a minute, one more, my apologies. Second reading for 9321.3. This is a second reading to adopt revisions to the meeting conduct policy 9321.3. Specifically, the revision adopts Robert Rules of Order except where otherwise indicated in board bylaws. This completes my report on the items for the second reading.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. I do have a point of clarification. There wasn't a formal motion or a second brought to, but we will use your report out as discussion. So let's start from the beginning. Make sure that this is done correctly. The motion that Hartford Board of Education adopts the following policies: 6140, 9012, 9321, 9321.3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussions? Mr. Walker.
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, I just want to ask, as it relates to the changes in 6140, that the credit changes were to align with state recommendations in terms of how those 25 credits are distributed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none. The motion on the floor is that the Hartford Board of Education adopts the following policy: 6140, 9012, 9321, 9321.3. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Item 4.6, first reading, policies 5145.53 and 6172.4. As this is the first reading, no vote is required. Board Member Johnson?
Thank you, Chairman Rigger. This is the first reading to adopt a mandated family engagement Title I policy 6172.4. Families are a child's first teacher. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act, requires schools receiving federal ESEA funds to have a written parent and family engagement policy pertaining to Title I programs. Title I is a federal program that allocates funding to schools that serve children whose families demonstrate high levels of need. The spirit of this policy is to invite families into greater conversation regarding their child's school experience. This policy establishes expectation for parent and family engagement, which is very important. That is policy 6172.4. I will now move on to policy 5145.53. This is the first reading to adopt transgender and gender nonconforming youth policy. The Hartford Board of Education is committed to creating and maintaining an educational environment that is physically, emotionally, and intellectually safe for all of the individuals who attend our schools and serve our students. This policy is designed in keeping with these mandates to create a safe learning environment for all students and to ensure that every student has equal access to all school programs and activities. This policy sets out guidelines for schools and district staff to address the needs of transgender and gender nonconforming students and clarifies that will end the first reading of our policy number 5145.53.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Again, as this is the first reading, no vote is required. However, are there any discussions from my colleagues?
I do want to say,
Board Member Johnson?
thank you so much, Chairman Rigger. I do want to say that the last policy that I did mention is very important as we have had some great success and heard some interesting stories from students. And I believe policy 5145.53 is something that should be celebrated in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any additional questions, discussions? Okay, moving to item number 5, the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are 5.2, contract continuation, RISE Network. 5.3, contract approval, summer experience contracts. 5.4, contract continuation, Power Schools. 5.5, contract renewal, Qualetrics. 5.6, approval minutes from the May 17th board meeting. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to take the consent agenda up as one item?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Now that the consent agenda is one item, do I have a motion to vote on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Agenda item 6, executive session. We'll be going into executive session to discuss documents related to collective bargaining. Excuse me, I apologize. We will be going into executive session to discuss documents related to collective bargaining. Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We are now in executive session and we'll be inviting Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, Dr. Tiffany Curtis, Attorney Melody Kaufman, Attorney Lori Misrick, and Chief Philip Penn. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session and reconvene in regular session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We are now back in regular session. Business agenda number 7. Item 7.1. Approval of proposed collective bargaining agreement with the Hartford Federation of School Secretaries, Local 1100 AFT AL-CIO. Motion that the Hartford Board of Education approve the proposed collective bargaining agreement with the Hartford Federation of School Secretaries, Local 1100 AFT AL-CIO. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
Yeah.
The June 21st Hartford Board of Education meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your summer. Good night.
Thanks, Christina. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for staying all the night, but most importantly, thank you for all you do.